In this video, we will solve 3 exercises using default arguments. Exercise 1. Write a function that executes a callback function after a given delay in milliseconds. The default value of delay is 1 second. Let's create an execute callback function with 2 arguments, a callback function and a delay. The default value of delay is 1000, symbolizing the waiting time in milliseconds. In the function body, we will call setTimeout with the 2 arguments. We can now test this function by calling execute callback with 1 function argument, console logging the done string. As you can see, the string appears after a second. As soon as we provide the second argument, execution becomes a lot quicker. Let's revert this change to increase execution time above a second again. We are done with this exercise, but it's worth making one more change for the sake of using arrow functions and let. Execution of the code stays the same as before. Exercise 2 is about creating a default value for the argument line in the print comment function. This default argument is initially 1 and it is incremented by 1 after each call. By calling print comment with the arguments comment and 25, the output becomes 25 space comment. We want this code to work even if the second argument is absent. Let's define a line number variable and initialize it to 1. The default value of line becomes line number ++. The default expression takes the original value of line number, returns its value, and then increments it after the equation is evaluated. We will now create 3 comments without specifying the second argument. Once the code is executed, the comments receive their respective line numbers. Best practices suggest that we avoid complicated expressions in the function signature. Therefore, consider moving more complex logic from default argument value expressions to separate functions. This way, if the line numbering logic changes, you don't have to edit hard-to-read default parameter expressions. There is just one problem with this abstraction. Line numbering is off by 1. We start with line number 2 and so on. This is because we pre-increment the line number instead of post-incrementing it. An acceptable solution is to reduce the initial value of the line number by 1. After the change, line numbering will behave in the exact same way as before. The third and last exercise sheds light on conflicts between default argument values and the arguments array. Let's determine the value of the console logs without running the code. The expression inside the first console log is evaluated to 1 as the original function was called with 1 argument. The second line of the output is true because the first argument is inside the arguments array. The third expression is false as the default value of price is not in the arguments array. If you run the code, the same values appear. Let's transform this function to an equivalent form on condition that the second argument is not supplied. From this form, it is easy to conclude that arguments.length is 1.